Imagine waking up tomorrow, walking into your garage and realizing the $70,000 vehicle you just financed is completely worthless. Not because it broke down, not because of a recession, but because a group of billionaires in Detroit made a secret phone call, bought off a few politicians, and decided your car company had to be executed. You think that's history? You think that's a nightmare from the 1950s? It is happening right now, in 2026. The same corporate cartel that dictates what plastic, soulless EVs you're forced to buy today is the exact same machine that has been murdering automotive innovation for decades. They don't want you safe. They don't want you empowered. They want your wallet, and they will destroy anyone who gets in their way. Today, we are counting down the 5 most revolutionary American car brands slaughtered by corporate greed. But you better brace yourself for the number 1 spot. The number 1 car on this list was so incredibly advanced, so terrifyingly safe, that the big 3 actually colluded with the United States government to raid the factory, drag the creator into federal court, and silence him forever. Millions of dollars vanished. A genius was left broken. Stick around until the end, because the dark truth behind the Tucker conspiracy reveals exactly how the auto industry is still stealing from you today. Let's dig into the graveyard. At number 5, we have Studebaker. Before the big 3 completely monopolized the asphalt, Studebaker was the pride of independent American engineering. We are talking about the brand that brought us the Avanti, a car that looked like it was designed by aerospace engineers, while Ford and Chevy were still stamping out heavy, unaerodynamic steel boxes. Studebaker promised the American working man a choice, a reliable, beautifully styled machine that didn't just blend into the endless sea of generic Detroit iron. They had the heritage, they had the loyalty, and they had the engineering chops to keep the massive corporations honest. But honesty doesn't pay dividends on Wall Street. By the mid-1950s, Ford and General Motors realized Studebaker was cutting into their profit margins. So, what did the cartel do? They launched a devastating, calculated price war. Ford and GM flooded the market, selling cars at near-loss margins just to bleed the independents dry. They strong-armed the dealerships, threatening to pull their inventory if they dared to share showroom floor space with a Studebaker. The bean counters at GM knew they could absorb the financial hit. Studebaker couldn't. It wasn't a fair fight. It was a corporate siege. By 1966, the siege was over. Studebaker was scared, and who paid the price? The American consumer. The moment Studebaker closed its doors, tens of thousands of factory workers in the South Bend, Indiana, were thrown into the streets. But worse, the people who had invested their hard-earned money into buying a Studebaker suddenly owned a ghost car. The value of their vehicles plummeted overnight. Replacement parts became impossible to find. Their dealerships vanished. The big 3 eliminated a threat, absorbed the market share, and immediately went back to building cheaper, less innovative cars, knowing you had nowhere else to go. Coming in at number 4 is a car that dared to rethink everything, the Kaiser Darren. Built by industrialist Henry J. Kaiser and designed by the visionary Howard Dutch Darren. This wasn't just a car, it was a middle finger to the establishment. Introduced before the Chevrolet Corvette, the Kaiser Darren featured a revolutionary fiberglass body and doors that didn't swing out into traffic. They slid seamlessly into the front fenders. It was a masterpiece of safety and design. Kaiser promised the American public a sports car that wouldn't rust, wouldn't dent easily, and looked like $1 million. Detroit couldn't handle the humiliation. General Motors had just launched the Corvette, and it was initially a heavy, underperforming flop compared to what the independents were dreaming of. So the big 3 utilized their ultimate weapon, supply chain strangulation. Back in the 1950s, the major automakers controlled the vendors who supplied everything from raw steel to transmissions. Behind closed doors, immense pressure was applied to suppliers. If you do business with Kaiser, you don't do business with GM.
The old ways are obsolete.
Suddenly, Kaiser couldn't source the V8 engines they desperately needed. They were forced to use weak, underpowered Willys engines, a sports car that looked like a rocket but drove like a tractor. It was corporate sabotage disguised as a logistics issue. Only 435 Kaiser Dams were ever built. The company bled millions and was forced out of the passenger car business entirely. For the consumer, it was a brutal lesson in monopoly power. If you bought a Dam, you were left holding a beautiful museum piece that no mechanic knew how to fix and no supplier made parts for. Detroit proved that no matter how good your idea is, if they control the steel and the parts, they control your destiny. And you, the buyer, are just collateral damage in their turf war. At number 3, we move to the 1980s and the most infamous corporate retaliation in modern history, the DeLorean Motor Company. John Z. DeLorean wasn't an outsider. He was the golden boy of General Motors. He created the Pontiac GTO. He defined the American muscle car. But he grew sick of the corporate greed, the endless cost cutting, and the executives who cared more about profit margins than horsepower. He left the cartel to build the ultimate ethical sports car, the DMC-12. Stainless steel so it wouldn't rust, gullwing doors, and a focus on driver experience. The hype was astronomical. DeLorean was going to expose how lazy and bloated Detroit had become. You don't just walk away from the big three and try to beat them at their own game. When DeLorean launched his company, he suddenly found the entire banking industry turning their backs on him. Loans mysteriously dried up. But it wasn't just corporate pressure this time. It got vicious. In 1982, desperate to keep his factory open and his workers employed, DeLorean was targeted by a highly orchestrated FBI sting operation involving a fake cocaine deal. The futuristic synthwave sound of an 80s track abruptly scratching to a halt, replaced by the chilling audio of a police siren. Later, in federal court, it was proven to be blatant entrapment. DeLorean was fully acquitted of all charges. The jury found that the government had manipulated him, but the damage was done. The trial was plastered across every television in America. By the time John DeLorean was proven innocent, his company was bankrupt. The factory in Belfast was shuttered, where thousands of investors lost their shirts, and early buyers of the DMC-12 found themselves owning a car manufactured by a criminal. Dealerships wouldn't touch them. The value crashed. General Motors got exactly what they wanted. The rogue executive was humiliated and destroyed, serving as a chilling warning to anyone inside the cartel who thought about breaking the ranks to build a better car for the consumer. Number 2 brings us to an internal assassination. Sometimes the cartel has to murder its own creations to protect the broader financial ecosystem. Enter the 1963 Chrysler turbine car. This was not a gimmick. It was a fully functional consumer-tested vehicle powered by a literal jet turbine engine. And here was the miracle. It had 80% fewer moving parts than a standard V8. It required almost no maintenance. And the most terrifying part for the establishment? It could run on anything combustible: diesel, peanut oil, kerosene, tequila, even Chanel perfume. Chrysler promised a future where you were no longer enslaved to the gasoline pump, but true freedom is a threat to the bottom line. The moment the turbine car proved it could work, logging over 1 million miles in the hands of everyday American families, the panic set in. Big oil executives had heart attacks. The service and parts divisions of the auto industry realized that a car with no pistons, no coolant, and no timing belts meant no repair bills. You can't bleed a customer dry in the service department if the engine never breaks. Suddenly, the project was deemed too expensive to mass produce. The accountants stepped in, citing emissions and manufacturing costs, completely ignoring the revolutionary benefits. What happened next is one of the greatest crimes in automotive history. Chrysler didn't just cancel the program. They were so terrified of the technology falling into the hands of the public or a rival that they recalled the cars from the families testing them. And then, under the cover of darkness, they sent them to the scrapyard. Out of 55 cars built, 46 were mercilessly crushed and burned. They literally destroyed the future to protect the gasoline status quo. The The consumer was dragged, kicking and screaming back to the pump, forced to pay for fragile V8s and endless oil changes. And now, we reach the number one spot, the ultimate betrayal, the most egregious assassination in the history of American capitalism. The Tucker 48. The year is 1946. World War II is over. The American public is starved for new cars, but Detroit is just feeding them the exact same recycled, unsafe garbage they were building before the war. Enter Preston Tucker, a visionary, a maverick, and a man who actually gave a damn whether your family survived a car crash. Tucker announced the car of tomorrow. The hype was unlike anything the country had ever seen. He promised a rear-mounted flat-six aluminum engine. He promised a center Cyclops headlight that turned with the steering wheel so you could see into corners. But most importantly, he promised safety, a concept Detroit considered a swear word. The Tucker 48 featured a padded dashboard, a shatterproof pop-out windshield to prevent decapitation in a wreck, and a reinforced passenger safety chamber. Over 300,000 Americans wrote letters begging to buy one. Tucker raised $20 million from everyday people who bought stock and dealership rights because they believed in a safer, better future. Detroit was absolutely terrified. If Preston Tucker succeeded, he would expose the big three for exactly what they were: lazy, greedy, and willfully negligent regarding passenger safety. To upgrade their assembly lines to match Tucker's safety standards would cost General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler billions of dollars. So they didn't compete. They conspired. The big three activated their political puppet, Senator Homer Ferguson of Michigan, or a man whose campaign was heavily funded by the Detroit auto cartel. Ferguson picked up the phone and unleashed the full, weaponized power of the federal government against one man. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, launched a massive, highly publicized, and completely baseless investigation into Preston Tucker. They leaked false reports to the media, painting Tucker as a scam artist. They claimed the car couldn't go in reverse. They claimed the engine was a fraud. Radio broadcasters, secretly fed by Detroit PR men, smeared his name daily. And then came the killing blow. The SEC raided Tucker's factory, confiscating his records, shutting down production, and indicting him and his executives on 31 counts of mail fraud. The government literally locked the doors of the factory to prevent him from building the cars the public had already paid for. In January 1950, after a grueling trial, the jury reached a verdict: not guilty on all counts. The jury realized what history now knows. The trial was a sham. Tucker had a factory, he had the materials, and he had built 51 perfect functioning, revolutionary cars. He wasn't a fraud, he was a threat. But the not guilty verdict was a hollow victory. The negative press orchestrated by the big three had destroyed the company's stock. The SEC had starved them of capital. Preston Tucker was bankrupted. His reputation dragged through the mud, and he died of lung cancer a few years later, a broken man. The real victims? You and your grandparents. The Tucker 48 safety features, disc brakes, padded dashes, pop-out windshields were suppressed. Because of the Tucker conspiracy, Detroit got away with building unsafe, rolling death traps for another 20 years, resulting in tens of thousands of unnecessary highway deaths, all to protect the profit margins of the cartel. The investors who bought Tucker dealerships lost everything. This is the dark, bloody reality of the automotive industry. Whenever a genius tries to give you a vehicle that is truly safer, lasts longer, or challenges the financial monopoly, the system destroys them. They did it to Studebaker. They did it to DeLorean. They murdered Preston Tucker. And make no mistake, as they force you into a future of disposable, software-locked electric vehicles, they are doing it to you right now. Before you sign that 84-month loan at the dealership, ask yourself, who really controls the keys to your car? I want to hear from you. Which of these 5 destroyed legends makes you the most furious? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button to support real, uncompromising automotive journalism. And until next time, keep your eyes on the rearview mirror. Detroit is always watching.